considering a $2,000 fourth stimulus checks, but this time it's not a blanket distribution to everyone. Instead, it's a laser focus on low-income Americans, Social Security recipients, veterans, and those on supplemental security income. Sounds like a game changer, right? Well, let's break it down how this could actually happen, why the timing might be perfect, and whether it's realistic given by current economic and political landscape. Now, you might be wondering, where is the money supposed to come from? Because let's be honest, the government doesn't just hand out money for free. Well, here's where things get interesting. There's been a major push to cut federal spending. We're not just talking about minor adjustment. The government has been actually canceling contracts, eliminating redundant programs, and streamlining the departments in an effort to save billions of dollars. But what happens to all that money once it's saved? Could a portion of it be redirected to those who need it most? Government savings and a shift in priorities over the past year, we've seen a dramatic shift in how the government manages its finances. With inflation concerns, national debt debates, and economic instability, policymakers have been looking for ways to tighten the budget. And guess what? These efficiency measures have reportedly saved tens of billions of dollars already. Now let's do some quick math. If the government redirected even a fraction of those savings, let's say $200 billion, it could be enough to fund a $2,000 stimulus check for approximately 100 million Americans. That's not just speculation, it's a realistic allocation of funds that wouldn't require new taxes or additional government borrowing. Now, who would qualify? The focus of this proposed stimulus isn't just about giving everyone a check. Instead, it's targeted at those who truly need it: low-income individuals, retirees, veterans, and people on fixed income like Social Security and SSI. Think about it. These groups have been hit hardest by rising costs. Many are struggling with skyrocketing rent, medical expenses, even the basic cost of food and transportation. While some economic indicators suggest that inflation is slowing, and the reality is that for those living on fixed income, every price increases feels like a major financial burden. By narrowing the eligibility, the program could maximize impact without creating unnecessary economic strain. In other words, this wouldn't be like the previous stimulus check that went to nearly everyone, fueling inflation concern. Would this check cause more inflation? Now, this is a big question. Would sending out another stimulus check cause inflation to skyrocket again like we saw in previous rounds? The short answer, not necessarily. Here's why. In the past, stimulus checks were given to almost everyone, regardless of financial need. That meant a huge influx of cash into the economy, driving up demand and ultimately pushing price higher. This time, however, the proposal is very different. A targeted stimulus would focus only the most vulnerable individuals, people who are likely to spend this money on essential rather than luxury item or investment. This means the extra cash wouldn't flood into the economy all at once, but instead would go directly into necessities like rent, groceries, and healthcare. Additionally, because this proposal is funded by government savings rather than a new borrowing or money printing, it wouldn't contribute to access in the market. The key factor that drove inflation last time, the DOGE dividend proposal, a surprising twist. Now, here's where things take an unexpected turn. Alongside discussions of a $2,000 first check, there's also been a talk of DOGE dividend, a $5,000 financial assistance proposal linked to the same government efficiency strategies. At first time, this might sound like a wild idea, but it actually follows a logical economic principle. If the government is saving money through smarter spending, those savings should be returned to taxpayer in a way that benefits the most vulnerable. This concept aligns with the idea of a circular economy, where money is continuously cycled back to those who need it most, rather than being lost in inefficiencies or administrative bloat. But could something like this really happen? Well, it depends on public support and political will. If enough people back the idea and it gains momentum, it could push policymakers to explore similar approaches to redistributing government savings. Could this actually happen? A lot of this comes down to political decision and economic condition. The government is already looking at ways to help struggling Americans, whether through expanded healthcare programs, rent relief, or direct financial assistance. We also know that with an election cycle approaching, politicians are more likely to push for policies that direct benefit voters. If the idea of targeting $2,000 stimulus check gains traction, it could become a major discussion point in Congress. And let's not forget, in the past, similar proposals were initially dismissed as unlikely, but then they actually happened. The first three stimulus checks, for example, weren't always guaranteed, and yet they eventually became reality because of public demand and economic necessities. Historical context, how this compares to the past stimulus effort to put this into perspective. Let's compare this potential $2,000 check to the past stimulus distribution. The first three stimulus payments cost the government nearly $850 billion combined. These were much broader in scope, going to the most Americans and in some cases causing inflationary pressure, and targeted $2,000 check for low-income individuals would cost for less around $200 billion, meaning it could be implemented without straining federal finances. Unlike past stimulus checks, this proposal is backed by actual savings rather than additional debt or money printing. This key difference makes it a much more feasible and responsible option for an economic standpoint. Final thoughts. Why this matters: at the end of the day, the discussion isn't about whether or not a $2,000 full stimulus check will happen. It's about how we as a country choose to allocate resources. Do we continue allowing billions of dollars to sit in inefficiencies, or do we redirect those funds to people who actually need them? Do we allow Social Security recipients, veterans, and struggling families to bear the burden of inflation alone? Or do we step in targeted relief that won't destabilize the economy? This is a conversation that needs to happen, and as developments continue to unfold, it's crucial to stay informed and engaged whether this proposal moves forward or not. That the fact that the government is actively seeking ways to save money means that discussions around direct financial assistance could continue in the near future. So what do you think? Should a $2,000 targeted stimulus check be considered? Let's keep the conversation going in the comments. And as always, I'll keep you updated on everything you need to know about financial relief, government policies, and ways to navigate these